Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the first ever 7th episode of Baseball versus the World, a podcast about how baseball relates to the world and how the rest of the world relates to baseball, part of the Just Baseball Media Network. I'm your host and guide on this maiden voyage through the vast cosmos of all things baseball. As always, Javier Reyes, staff writer here at the aforementioned justbaseball.com, a very, very good website, as well as the host of the Locked On Padres podcast. You might have heard a chuckle earlier, and that is because I'm being joined by perhaps my most esteemed guest yet, which says a lot because we've had authors on
It's not
here.
saying much.
Yeah. We've had some esteemed authors on here, though. We've had some people with, in a way, this is unique, like some of the worst takes in the history of the company. That person has been on. Shout out to Ethan Budasky from last week.
Generational numbers with Ethan.
Generational numbers, right? I'm being joined by, you know the voice, host of not just the call-up, not just a co-host of justbaseball.com, the co-founder of justbaseball.com. It is Aram Leighton, my good friend. Sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I've definitely done better. You could probably hear like by my voice. I've just been fighting through a cold, and I don't know what it is. It might be like a moderate flu. I don't know. But I've had some brain fog, so I feel like it's a perfect time to like dive into Scott Boras quotes and things like that. I'll just say some stuff. I don't even know what I'm going to say. We had an episode. We were talking about the Arias deal and all that stuff on the Just Baseball show. And I texted Jack the next morning and I was like, dude, I woke up and I didn't remember one thing I said on the podcast. Like, be honest with me. Was it terrible? And he's like, honestly, no, you were fine. So fortunately, like, I guess you do enough repetition. You can kind of get into autopilot on the baseball analysis side. But when it comes to this stuff, I don't know where I'm going to go. Like, I just tried to make a self-deprecating joke, and by accident, just actually did it backwards and just roasted everybody who's been on your show before me. I meant to say not saying much, meaning like I'm not much, but by accident said that basically everyone before me is not impressive and it's very easy to beat them. So sorry, did not mean it that way. It was meant to be self-deprecating. The people that have come before me are I much more impressive. That's what I was trying to say. So we're off to a hot start here, and we'll see how we go.
It's okay, man. And you know what? I like the idea of this podcast being like the beginning of the rehab process for folks. You know, they get back on. This is your kind of warm up. You're getting back into your prospects and, oh, look at my little numbers. And I know everything about every minor league player, blah, 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 helping you out just a little bit. And today's episode's a fun one. Frankly, I think every episode has been fun, obviously, but today we are going over Scott Boras, as you just alluded to. And look, you guys talked about in the Just Baseball show, the discourse around him has been that of, oh, he's on the washed watch, right? When it comes to free agent signings. And while I just want to ask you just plainly, what do you think of Scott Boras? Because I feel like I have heard a lot of hatred, a lot of vitriol towards Scott Boras since before people were questioning, oh, is he actually a good agent? Like from this past offseason. Yeah. And previously, at least, my perspective, I was always like, you guys have been hating this person since before I like graduated high school. And back then he was getting players paid. And I was like, so it's bad that he gets guys overpaid? I don't quite know if you guys understand what his job is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like that's always going to be his job. And I think, teams, I think a big part of it too is, the way that he is really good at using the media. And that's something that, again, if you're an agent and you're tactful, like you can't fault him for being effective in that way. You can blame the media and certain writers maybe for being so easily influenced, but also at the same time, can you blame them? That's the best source to get a lot of your information, whether he is going to feed it to you in a way that benefits him or not. If you develop that working relationship, there's a lot of writers who would happily do that. So, that's the funny thing to me on it as well is like, there's been a couple moments where I've grandstanded and been like, I don't like that when it's egregious, like where it literally reads as like a promotional tweet for Scott Boras from certain writers. But there's a lot of other times where I zip it because I think if I was in that position, I'd probably take the scoop too. Like, I think there's a lot of people that comment on it and pretend that, if they were in the situation, they would be like, oh no, I'm not using that scoop. That would help Boras. Like, if it's a big time, scoop, I struggle to believe that a lot of these writers and reporters wouldn't report on it. So that's one side of it. The other side, though, is I think the hatred comes from teams kind of fighting back. And I think a lot of general
Mm,
managers, presidents, saying, oh, we're not negotiating with Boras, or making those comments. And then, I think those kind of spur out and spread out. And, you also have reporters and writers talking to GMs and presidents of baseball operations and things like that saying, they're being told, oh, Boras is brutal to deal with. Oh, we didn't pay that guy. We didn't re-sign him because Boras was asking for too much. That's why that your favorite player didn't come back. So it's kind of a war that's being fought through the media, I think, and then has kind of villainized him to a degree. And then also, like, we have a society that loves to see the best fall often, especially when you have this, energy to you. And I don't think whether it was Scott Boras or anybody else, the best baseball agent was just guaranteed to be hated. Like, I don't see a way where you could be the best and most lucrative baseball agent representing the likes of Alex Rodriguez and all these other guys and not be hated.
yeah.
Like, there's just no way that was going to happen, because you're going to have an edge to you. And you're also just going to have this villain arc a little bit that comes with you. And I think that I have more thoughts on it, but that's kind of like the basic psychology of it, I think, too, where I don't know if there's many guys that are going to be in that position and not be hated. Yeah, you could probably hide from the media a little bit more. You'll get like XL, Casey Close. Like, you don't know much about him at all, and he does a really good job of just keeping himself out of, the spotlight. But he's also not the guy that continuously broke records, and he's also not, the guy that's been known as the king of sports agents right now, or baseball agents, especially over the last, multiple decades.
Yeah, and I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I could get on my soapbox about, speaking of society, and how like we're looking at the agent getting people paid and not the super duper rich guy who isn't spending money. We could get into that from almost every owner. Your team, every now and then, I'm like, maybe they can't.
By the way, the Marlins use that as an excuse. The old regime, Jeffrey Loria, David Sampson, we won't negotiate with Scott Boras. Oh yeah, because you can't afford half of his clients. Like, that grandstanding too. Like, oh, we don't do business with him. What kind of practice is that? You can not like somebody, but to say, oh, we're not going to do business with the guy that represents most of baseball superstars is basically saying we don't want to pay baseball superstars. There's so many business arrangements in the world, no matter what the business is, that you have to work with people you don't like negotiating with and that you don't enjoy working with. That's freaking business, dude. Like, so that's another just classic example. There's multiple organizations that have been known to be like, we don't negotiate with Scott Boras. What do you mean you don't negotiate with Scott Boras? He represents the best players. Like, you should, whether you want to or not.
It's true. And as evident, like, people who like to work to each other, look at this podcast right here. We're working with each other right now, and we hate each other off camera. Exactly. But no, seriously, and I think you're great. Like, just everyone likes to root against someone. You saw what happened with the Kansas City Chiefs last year. You've seen what happened with the New England Patriots, although that one was justified. Like, there's been over and over. This is just what happens. But it seems like it's a little bit on the downturn. But before we, in terms of Boras and like, this past offseason, but instead of criticizing Boras and his clientele, instead, we're going to be praising him on this episode, guys, because this is Baseball versus the World. It's a silly podcast. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be coming up with our top 5 favorite quotes from Scott Boras. Because over the years, and you might have seen them, especially this past offseason, Boras just thinks he's Kendrick Lamar, apparently. He just thinks he's like going to drop the craziest bar of all time. And I recommend everyone checking out a story from Stephanie Apstein, who does tremendous work over at SI. I believe if you type in like Jason Worth, you'll find it, because according to the story, that's where this started. After the Jason Worth signing back in 2010, this whole bringing quotes to the winter meetings and stuff and having them ready. It's a really fun article. In quotes from Boras, we're trying to bring humor to you poor writers who are sitting down for 72 hours with nothing to write. He says generously, like, he's clearly a schemer. Don't get me wrong, but I do recommend everyone checking out that story. It's a lot of fun. Apstein does really, really great work. So we're going to be talking about a lot of those quotes today. What we're going to do is Aram and I are going to, go back and forth and just bring up a bunch of because there's been a lot and there's been so many since I just said since 2010 that I don't have like maybe every single quote ever from this man, but we have a lot of the bangers and we're going to go over them and then save some for later to put together our top 5. Arm, does that sound like fun to you?
Yes, there's some ridiculous ones, but and also I think it's just like a good way to kind of talk about. Again, it's a reminder of all the different players he's represented, and
Yeah.
also just the conversation around those guys and kind of like, was that a good contract? Did he get him a good one? Did he not? Because I think the other side of it is, I think we forget about a lot of the deals that he's gotten guys that, a lot of times we don't say, oh, wow, he got this dude a good deal and he totally flamed out. Really good job by Boras. But when he doesn't get, a volatile player, a really good deal, then all of a sudden we say, oh, wow, what was Boras doing? This year was definitely weird. This is the last thing I was going to share on it. Like this offseason was definitely frustrating and disappointing. But I also think that people are underestimating, how thin the market may have been for a Blake Snell. And especially because of what his price tag was going to be no matter what, and the volatility there. The only one that I think is inexcusable is Jordan Montgomery, and I don't really think he had a good bar for him either. So, maybe there's a correlation there.
There might be. There might be. It was a weird market, I think, this year, but I'm really curious to see what happens and what based on the quotes you're going to hear today, he's prepping for this offseason because this offseason has some crazy players, Juan Soto being kind of the top one. I cannot wait to see what this guy comes up. It's almost like the John Sterling thing where John Sterling would have a different...
He better not do a Juan and Juan play on words, right? Like that would be so lame. He's got to do better than that.
Absolutely. We'll see what he does. But do you want to start talking about a couple of the ones that you found to start this thing off? Because you were
there's a couple like favorites, but like we'll ease in, I guess. I know the one that like, the Xander Bogaerts one's got to be your favorite with the Marvel tie-in. Like, come on.
Yeah, let me just read that one really quickly. This is the first time teams have had a chance to sign the X-Man. I think they're... I can't even read through this. I think they're finding it to be a Marvel opportunity. Xander has a very famous uncle, Humphrey, and he certainly left in his memoirs, kid, there's going to be a lot of teams looking at you. Look, am I saving that one? Will it be a nominee as a big Marvel kid? I am currently wearing a Nintendo 64 hoodie. I don't have anything Marvel around me, but trust me, big time on that one. And I think what makes it funnier is knowing how Bogaerts is right now, which is not great, folks. As a Padres fan, I don't know how to defend it, but there's been Anthony Rendon, Jose Abreu allegations towards this man. Not great in Padres land, but it was a pretty good one, and it was extremely corny. I like the corny. I really do. I think that the cornier it is, the better. But it's got to be, there are some on here that are so corny that your eyes will roll. That's what we do for our listeners. I mean, I make people's eyes roll all the time with the dumb stuff I say, but let me tell you, there's some crazy stuff on here. The Bogaerts one is great, though. Bogaerts one is fantastic. What else you got?
Okay, well, this is probably my favorite just because it's so absurd.
Let's do it.
Taiwan is on an island, and I think the only question is who is willing Taipei. Like that's insane. Like that actually is like a rapper-esque like double entendre kind of type thing. Like, I mean, Taipei being an island, Taiwan. I mean, I don't know what island Taiwan's on in terms of what makes him a one of one kind of guy, but you know what?
Yeah.
That's his job to sell us on. And he got him a deal that he didn't deserve. So like I'll give him that one too. That's kind of baked into some of these too for me. Taiwan is on an island. I think the only question is who is willing. Taipei is good. I wish I could hear it though, because this is like almost rap for me. Like how he delivered that and how he kind of his cadence there, like that's important.
No, absolutely. And I think that I don't know how I think he should be rewarded simply just for being able to say these things with a straight face. I really do. Like, I just don't understand how you could say half these things. It's insane. Such as, how do you say this with a straight face? It's simply unavoidable that I need a guy like that, referring to pitcher Matthew Boyd.
Yeah, like, that one.
I think this one isn't good. I just think that it
That's
was
a
like
dad joke one,
it's a
like,
dad joke one. Yeah, 100%.
uh-huh.
I
I
don't think
think
this
he's
will
got
make
it.
our top 5, but
No.
it is worth talking about. And Matthew Boyd, again, that it's funny because of when you hear about these players, and it's funnier when you go back and see some of them because you're like, wow, that player did not turn out good, or oh wow, that player turned out great. So it's like just no matter what, you're gonna get like a funny reaction out of these.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's like, oh, he spent time, coming up with a pun for Matthew Boyd. Like,
true. Does he deserve credit for that? You know what I mean?
yeah,
That he's like, hey,
I'd come up with a pun for him for a cut of whatever he signs for, but still, I mean, like he went from trying to come up with puns for Xander Bogaerts and like multi, $100 million guys, and then Matthew Boyd still got to give him some love too.
absolutely. So while I don't think that one will make the top 5, I just think that one's a dad joke and it's worth bringing up. I've got some other ones as well that if I'm going to keep going. This one's really long. I want to kind of get some of the long ones out of the way because, frankly, the longer they are, with the exception of the Marvel
The
one,
more absurd.
the more absurd. And then also, in my opinion, that takes them out. I want something quick, precise, and boom, boom, right in your face. This one is on Michael Conforto. Conforto has kind of been the king of diamonds, Little League World Series, College World Series. And as a Met, he has been an all-star. He has been a pennant winner. He was huge in the World Series. He basically has become the king of queens and in free agency now. He's the ace of many GM's hearts. So this one isn't like that many bars or anything like that. This one's just you praising a guy and calling him. The reason I find this funny is at the time when this guy's a free agent, we've got like Aaron Judge, we've got Francisco Lindor, we've got Pete Alonso, like players who are clearly, no offense to him, better than Michael Conforto. I just find it really funny that it's like, dang, like I forget Lindor, I guess, right? Like one of the 10 best players in baseball at the time, especially, and still probably.
And a guy that like wasn't playing, right? Like, like we haven't seen play, like ends up signing a 1-1. Like it's just like that was a classic one. Yeah, the king of queens. Like when it's a total reach is always when it's really funny because
it's a reach.
Like, I thought the bar like of teams are this one's great too. Teams that are pursuing a championship, they're certainly not pursuing the minimum. They're going directly to the max.
Yes.
Like that's a bar, but like that's also funny because it's true. Like Max Scherzer is a Hall of Famer. He's a guy that you feel like, if you're trying to win a championship, you are signing Max Scherzer. So the ones that like aren't like a reach and ridiculous are also, I think, really good. And that's why I like that one a lot. Like, yeah, great. He played in the Little League World Series. Conforto did. Like, I don't care. Like that, it doesn't make him any better at the big league level right now, which is a guy that was going to get a 1-1 deal. So that is probably one of my favorites. There is the Scherzer one.
We're gonna save that one for later. It's just it was a simple pun, but effective, and you delivered it well. And like you said, like a player who really does have that sort of stature and ends up working for a little bit and still kind of worked. I mean, he won a World Series with the Rangers. He was very good for the Mets, at least that first year, and, got a little bit hurt and whatnot. But hey, Max Scherzer is going to be a Hall of Famer. And frankly, just based on the fact that he's like one of the only players I've seen that was quite literally worth it every single year of his biggest contracts, he was always worth it. Yeah. I think is a big thing for me that I'm going to be looking at going forward. But keeping it a little bit on the Mets theme, I want to stay with it on that. I know Scherzer's on the Rangers, but you get my point. This one is a little bit of a work of art. Keeping with the Disney theme from earlier. Well, Disney doesn't own Marvel Comics a lot, but you guys get my point. There are a lot of teams in the free agent market that are in the waters for a center fielder. Whoever picks our guy will be the lucky one to Finding Nemo.
And he got him a bag.
He did. He absolutely got paid big time. And while he was a little bit annoying for his World Baseball Classic stuff, and some people hate how he runs to first base sometimes, the guy's a good player. And this was a pretty good line. I have to admit, the picks our guy. That pretty good, impressive. Man. That was impressive. I don't think I would have been able to think of that part. I really don't.
The way he sets it up too, like you see, like the first sentence kind of sets it up and it just puts it right where he wants it. But Pixar guys, that might be one of the more impressive play on words that we've got of any of these quotes. Like we'll be revisiting that one, but Pixar guys is pretty damn good.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
The James Paxton one is good too.
Oh yeah,
just because because it's justifying something too. Like
Mhm.
it was just him taking up his player option.
It's
So
it's pretty good, yeah, so go
yeah,
ahead, tell the good
sometimes
folks
it's
that one.
better to take the six pack than it is to search for the champagne. Like
Ooh, I'm saving that one. I'm saving that one. I think that one's a contender because just it's just I don't know, it just works. It just works. It's
look
also
at the
funnier
six
because
pack
of what you
right
mentioned.
here. This is a guaranteed, nice little set of beers. Or I could go search for some fancy champagne and maybe not find it. Um,
Yeah.
I just love it because it's a bar for justifying picking up a player option. So, and we know that he loves to put the player options in there to decline. So I liked that one. I did like that one.
I think it makes it better because of the player option thing for sure too. So I agree on that one. What else we got? There's some really dumb ones. Like I don't think this one's not gonna be in my top 5, but it's a volcano of hot talent lava. Scott Boras sweet talking the Padres young players back in 2018.
Yeah, that was
Just
ass.
that was bad. That was just
Yeah.
like you're getting quickly deleted off my spreadsheet right now. Not a good one. Like I respect that he tried, but I feel like you could have done stuff like on fryer, do like an on fire pun. It felt like you had something going with the lava thing. There's like some podcasts in San Diego for the Padres that allude to lava and stuff like that, but you didn't quite land the plane. Didn't do it there. What else we got here? Scott Boras on teams cutting payroll, a little bit of a general one. He said, "This is not about an inability to pay, it's about a choice not to pay." That's like, it's not a bar, it's true. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, it's true, but it's not quite hard enough, at least in my
No,
opinion. Now,
I
and he's got
agree.
some general ones that we'll get
He
into
could have
that
hit it
actually go hard, but
could have hit it a little harder. Also, another one that I just don't like. I
mm,
just think it's just kind of weird. I
yeah.
just and it's not very clever. On Nick Castellanos, I advised all of you 2 years ago that old Saint Nick was going to bring you a lot of presents to Cincinnati, or bring a lot of presents to Cincinnati. Frankly, we're just going to sit back and see what teams have been naughty and nice. That also just makes me uncomfortable. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm just out on that one. I don't. I mean, look, you can't hit on all of them. I'm not out on that, or I'm not in on that one.
So this one's very funny, and I think it's funnier now that you said that it made you uncomfortable. For me, you know why this one doesn't make it? The Saint Nick thing was a layup. You could have done so much more
Yeah,
with that. Like, it's not like you got an impossible name that you had to try and make something with, right? Like Jason Smith, like a really cliche general name. The Nick thing, like the jolly old
also
Saint Nick.
Castellanos. You could come up with a bunch of
Yeah,
puns off of
he's a
that. I think
meme.
too.
He's a meme. I've literally wrote for justbaseball.com some of his best moments. Like one of the weirder players in baseball. Just a real letdown, man. Just a real
Yeah,
letdown. You had so much potential with the Saint Nick thing. John Sterling, he did the jolly old Saint Nick with Nick Swisher back in the day. Like, come on. If he could come up with something really good in like the middle of a game, then I'm pretty
yeah,
sure and also he's prepared these things. That's another thing that the article gets into
yeah.
is that like
Exactly.
he comes into the meetings. He doesn't if he came up with this on the fly, I give him a little bit of a pass. But this, it's like, nah, man, you come up prepared and all that stuff. So no, this is a huge, huge miss, arguably the biggest one because of the fact that Saint Nick could have been used so well. Um, what else we got here? I've got a couple, and they both have to do with the same thing, and it is Scott Boras blasting Major League Baseball for having this cancer of non-competitiveness, saying when teams come to Minnesota, only one of the Twins show up. The Toronto Blue Jays are suffering from the blue flu. The crowds at Marlins Park puts the MIA in Miami. Okay,
Yep.
hold on. You are the Marlins guy? I might have to save that last one. I
Yeah,
might
that
have
was
to
that was
save
a
that
good
last
one.
one. I might have to save that last one. Look, I know that Miami sports has been the whole flake, front runner, like, that they leave early. I mean, this started, in my opinion, with the Heat series back against the Spurs. I feel like that's where this kind of like cliche attached
Yeah,
itself somewhat
yep. The
permanently.
first ever fans to leave a game early.
The
Yeah,
first ever games. I have to admit that video is hilarious, though. It
it is.
is
Oh, it's
objectively very
unreal.
funny. It's an amazing video. Everybody go look up Miami Heat. It's game 6, I believe. Literally, the security guards see the people leaving the building. They try turning back in. It's not like they don't know it's still them. And they said, no, you can't come back in.
No,
So
can't go.
shouts to those people and shouts to that security guard because that is absolutely the right thing to do in that situation. Got to save the MIA one for later. That's incredible. The blue flu is bad, I think. I don't think the blue flu one's good. But the MIA part and the Twin Cities, not terrible, not great. But for me, it's the Miami one. You got to put that on here.
I got two other bad ones, and then I'm ready to pick the top five. These
Okay.
that I just know like will not be involved.
Yeah.
The Carlos Correa one, like, so you're a franchise brand. You're the Dior of defense. You're the Hermes of hitting. You're the Louis V of leadership. You're the Prada of the postseason. It's one-stop shop for a championship designer. I mean,
Look,
honestly, as I read it, I hated it a little bit less.
It's not as bad. I just think he tried a little bit too much. You did a little bit too much.
I like the championship designer was a good it's a good play on words. Another double entendre there, but like
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's I'm torn on that one. And the one I don't understand. Like it's just like it's I don't know. I don't totally get it. Well, there are 29 teams that have their big carts out there, and they're filling them up. This was also on the Mets like GM vacancy. Look at maybe the old adage: "What's upsetting the Big Apple cart?" And it might be that it's rather unattended at the moment. I'm sure that will be. Wait, I can't even read this. I'm sure that will be there, and we know that in our shopping malls, we're very welcoming to the Big Apple cart. I don't even understand that one.
I guess it has something to do with like Apple Pay, maybe how people use Apple Pay. I don't know.
You said
and also
old adage.
Yeah. You know what? If I have to think about it too much, and I'm not saying that I'm a smart person, I am the opposite, but I still feel like I could at least understand puns for Major League Baseball stuff. If I'm not immediately understanding it, I'm not with it. And also, Big Apple has a lot of potential. I mean, heck, me calling Peter Apple, co-founder also of Just Baseball, Big Apple, is better than what Scott Boras was doing here.
I think
you know what I mean?
Like old saying, "Upset the apple cart," which means to disrupt a procedure or spoil someone's plans. So I guess that's what he's
getting all scholarly on us or something. I don't know.
I was just kind of out on that one.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit too much. Some other one. There's plenty of other ones that I will say, are general, and I think just not as good. I've got plenty, so I'm going to keep saying a couple of them. Let me just pull them up really quickly.
Yeah, I have one more banger if you don't get to it too.
Okay, I got you. When you think about sculpting a pitching staff and you're a thinking man, the target, without a doubt, is Rodon. It's fine. To me, this is just really freaking funny because of how Rodon has aged, that he immediately got worse with the Yankees, and that this is a guy who's known for getting hurt all the time. So that's not exactly like what a quote I would assign with it. Not horrible. He's trying to sell his guy. To me, this read to me as like, dang, I can't come up with anything. Let me just say that my client, he's that guy.
I agree. I think he didn't have anything there.
I don't think he had anything, but he could have done something like with Rodon, like you rode on into the sunset. I don't know. Look, I just came up with it just now. Like, I feel like he could have done something, but I think it's funnier because of how Carlos Rodon has been a player, especially since he signed with the Yankees. Just hurt, not the same, not awful. He's been bouncing back
better.
He's been better, but not what he was before, which was like a Cy Young, top 5 pitcher for like 2 straight years. So that hasn't gone that way. This is the Easter Bunny delivering rotten eggs, and he was referring to the lack of teams trying to win. You could have done more. Not enough there. I know that I just said that he was doing too much with the Correa one. You did too little with this one.
Yeah, I just didn't like that one.
And he's had other ones that criticize teams for not spending that are better than this. So that's another reason why this one does not make the list.
How about I think this one was a savage one because it's like,
okay,
because I mean he's so rich. Talent is the stake, and I don't really care what time dinner is on whether he was concerned about the lockout pushing all transactions into a condensed time frame next spring. That's a bar.
No, so this is one that I was going to save, actually. I was thinking of saving it because early front runner for his best quote, in my opinion. I just think that, like, calling yourself the stake and it working and saying, no one cares what time. I just think it's really, really good. That one is, I think, a guarantee to be in our top 5. I really do. I just think that one was really solid. It's effective. And like you said, or like we were just saying, like, he does have some criticizing Major League Baseball that aren't as flat as the Easter thing that we just mentioned. Like, he's got some good ones, and they really hit harder when you know that it's kind of true with some of these teams. It's like, why are the Yankees not calling Bryce Harper? Speaking of Bryce Harper, I got one on him. Bryce Harper, this was a quick comment, not as much a bar on him specifically, but he was asked about the Yankees, suggesting that Bryce Harper wouldn't be a fit. And he said, they said that about Mark Teixeira too. Kind of a good response. Kind of a good response. They were kind of criticizing that. Then Mark Teixeira comes to the Yankees. He stinks at first because he just, he started off all seasons pretty poorly back then, and then was one of their best players basically for the next like 5-6 years or so, just to give a rough estimate. So not a bad response for my guy. I give him credit for that one because he probably thought of it on the fly. You know what I mean? That's why I think he deserves credit for that one. So shouts to Boras. Look, he's a hit and miss guy. You know what I mean? He's going to have some big ones. He's going to have some big ones and some small ones, and we just have to celebrate everything.
They can't all land. I mean, especially when you're shooting that high volume, they can't all land.
Absolutely not.
I'd say he's shooting over 50%.
Yeah, I'll give him that. I think he's got like the Jalen Brunson field goal finishes. You know what I mean? I think he's got that much at least going for him. It's, at least, you don't want him in like the Tua area of inaccuracy. You know what I mean? Once you're in that area, then you're really in big trouble. So
you have one of the best completion percentages in the NFL.
I know. I don't know. I just was trying to
reach.
That was a reach. Look, I was inspired by Boras and I made a little bit of a reach. Let me see here. This one, hear me out. I think this one's cute, and I'm going to explain why in just a second. His most famous one centered on star right fielder Bryce Harper before he got paid in 2019 with the Phillies. He declared his free agency Harper's Bazaar. Now, is it the obvious one to do? Yes. But he said it was his daughter's idea. And in that case, I think it deserves a little bit more bonus points because I think that's cute. You know what I mean? I think that's nice. I think that's kind. You know what I mean? And I'm a big softie, as Aram knows, and as anyone who knows me knows. So I really appreciated that one. I don't think it would have been bad even without that context, but it's just it's fine. Like, that's the go-to. But I like that he said it was his daughter's idea.
Yeah, I like that.
See, I even sold Aram the just cold, dead heart of Aram Leighton. Even he admits on that one.
Dogs and caring for your children. You got me.
Absolutely. Referring to Jake Arrieta as, in quotes, a big squirrel with a lot of nuts in his trees. And then I love that the article that followed that up by saying, don't ask why.
Yeah,
correct. We're not going to ask why. Not good. I will say Jake Arrieta, not the easiest name to come up with something. But
yeah, I don't really get it. And like,
I don't understand the squirrel.
The nuts thing? Like, I don't really.
Don't they call like Jeff McNeil the squirrel? Who's the one that has a squirrel nickname? Is it Jeff McNeil? I forgot who it is that actually has. It's someone on the Mets.
I don't know, but the way that one reads too is just like, I don't know. You feel like you got to just like insert a pause in there or something. I don't know.
Speaking of more cringe, though, describing the Pittsburgh Pirates as, in quotes, sitting on an economic volcano. Also from the article I said from, they're bewildered why he said this, which implies danger instead of just calling it a gold mine. So everyone's like, that one didn't even make sense. We have no idea what you're talking about. So no, it's true. Like, it does imply danger. So again, he has some misses, but he has some hits. This one, way too simple. So you might roll your eyes at this, folks, but Profar, so good.
Sometimes that's okay, though.
I think it was okay. I think it's like, it's one of those that
what's he gonna do with Jurickson, dude? Like, what's he gonna do with that?
Hey, you never know. I just recorded with my buddy for those who don't know, I record Locked On Padres, and he referred to Jurickson Profar as Juraxon Profar, and I've been getting dinosaur jokes in my YouTube comments for like 6 days now. So I really appreciate that. But Profar is so good, I'm going to save it for later, just in case, because it's solid. Am I doing this because Jurickson Profar is apparently Babe Ruth now? Yeah. Am I a little bit recency bias? Yeah, that might be part of it, but I just like how simple it was. Another simple one that he had, if I could bring it up. We already did the Taipei one. We already did Max Scherzer. He just has all the bells and whistles, referring to Josh Bell. Solid.
No. I'm out on that one, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know. I just think too easy. Too
You're
easy.
right. No, you're right. I think it's solid. You know what it is? It's when you go for the safe pick in your fantasy draft. You're like, I'm not taking the swing on Troy Tulowitzki because I think he gets hurt too much, even though his value is greater than everybody else. Instead, I settle for, some solid player like back then, let's say Nelson Cruz, when he was just guaranteed. It's not exciting, but it does get the job done. But I understand what you're saying because we just criticized,
I think he
the
got to that
Saint
later in
Nick.
the night and was like, I've had enough. Like, this is right in front of me. It's just fine.
Yeah, right. Like was very. You could have done more with it. It's if we're gonna criticize the Nick Castellanos one for you being able to do a lot more with Saint Nick than you ended up doing, I just think with this one, Bell, there is so much you can do with that. You can make some connection to Philadelphia if the Phillies are in on it, because the Phillies are also a team that spends a lot. You can do something with the Liberty Bell. You could do bells and whistles is fine, but I think you could have like one upped it. I think you could have kept going, and he
Yeah, he
didn't.
could have said something about the bell ringing and teams coming. Like, I don't know. There is definitely some more in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Just there was more potential, didn't quite come through. Do you have some others though, Arm, that you'd like to share? Since I've been
I fired all of mine off
Oh,
already.
you've got all of yours up?
I got all of mine
So
off.
I'm just gonna keep going with some of mine. In Marcus's case, he brings a charge to the
Oh, that
batter's
one.
box.
Yeah.
He insulates the middle infield. So he's truly a modern day Semien conductor. And we all know there's a shortage of chips worldwide. So you can imagine the people who come.
Clever.
I like it.
Clever.
I like it. I'm a fan, man. I think it's pretty good. Also, Marcus Semien aging greatly. Shouts to Peter Apple, who I've mentioned a couple times on this show, and your little exchange with him over Marcus Semien and Bo Bichette. Oh
Yeah.
God, I can't wait to see what he comes up with Bo Bichette. By the way, speaking of which, there's some potential there. But he could slip up. I feel like there's
I
some.
love when he has to come up with something for a guy that's like clearly underperforming really badly.
Yeah. So that's gonna be real. It's like, look, you look at this year, you don't know Bo, something,
Yeah.
some Bo
You
Jackson
don't know,
reference.
Bo.
So maybe we could do that. Boris said, when you go to the zoo and half the bears are asleep, you're not able to enjoy the zoo, as a way of commenting on teams taking in 2019. I mean, um, I I don't know how to feel about this one, honestly. It's so stupid that I kind of like it. You know what I mean? It's just so dumb. But I feel like, again, this is the same issue we've run into. He's made these sort of criticisms of general Major League Baseball, and they've hit harder. We just talked about the steak one before. Like, he's had some genuine bars about general baseball that are much better than this. So for me, that is out of contention. This one is weird, and this one you might not even remember. He was asked if he expects a quick resolution on Dallas Keuchel, who no longer is in Major League Baseball. He just completely fell off, all that stuff. The wine has to decant, Boris told him. This was back in 2019. Look, I'm not a wine guy. Just reveal about me. I'm just not. So I don't fully get this. I don't know if you're a big wine guy either.
It means
But
just like it has to sit there
I
and
guess it just sits. It's
like
a sit there
breathe.
thing. Yeah. And also, I don't know what that has to do with Dallas Keuchel. That's another thing. I don't quite see what that has to do with Dallas Keuchel. Maybe Dallas Keuchel's a huge wine fan, and I don't know it, and that's part of his brand. Maybe I'm unaware of that, but I feel like I'm genuinely aware of a lot of the stupid non-baseball things in baseball. That's why I'm hosting this show, and I haven't really seen anything on that. So unless I hear something about this one's just not very good. Unless, again, there's something that I'm missing. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't think he has like a winery or anything like that. Like I don't really know what
And also,
I don't know what that one was.
if I've got to Google your word like that, you know what I mean? Like, and again, maybe this is a product of me not being a wine guy, but I don't know. I feel like most people would be like, "What does that mean? Don't you just say let it sit?" You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's better words.
Ken Rosenthal quote tweeted it and said, "I'm no whatever the word is for like a wino." But hasn't the wine been decanting for 7 months?
Oh man, that's the actual quote that might be up for contention between these two. All right, Ken. Okay, Ken. All right, Ken. All right, not bad. Here's another one. Scott Boras, this isn't the Windy City. This is an economic hurricane in Chicago of what the Cubs have done. Not horrible, but I'm gonna say one thing. much better if you're talking about the White Sox. You know what I mean? Like the Cubs have actually spent some money and they've won a World Series since they spent money, I assume, on some Boras clients too. Shouts to the Jason Hayward contract, which was hilarious. Not doing it for me. Not doing it for me. Again, he's criticized baseball before, but this isn't it. And I don't like it. Because also the Cubs they've been worse, especially at the time when he was saying this. Obviously, the whole hadn't won in 100 years, that whole thing. But the White Sox right now, this ages poorly because it's like, no, the White Sox are the ones that like actually have never spent. Andrew Benintendi is literally the highest paid player they've ever had, which is insane. And Jerry Reinsdorf is low-key the worst owner in sports. So shouts to him. And John Fisher too. My apologies to the very good A's fans. Yeah. I bring up Reinsdorf.
I was going to say, dude, don't disrespect John Fisher like that. He's been working real hard to be the worst owner in sports.
He's absolutely been. But let me tell you, Jerry's right behind him because he's messing up two teams, both Bulls and White Sox. So I think he deserves a little bit credit. But at least the White Sox have like won a World Series once. You know what I mean? Like at least they have that. At least the Bulls like won some World Series or some championships. So I'll give him a little bit of break on that. This is a Casper Finance. This one's amazing. He was asked about teams who claim they aren't making money, and he said they are practicing Casper Finance. Where's the ghost? Where's the money? I like it. I really do.
Where does the Casper come from, though? Like
I think he's just asking because wow, actually, you bring up a great question. Where does Casper come from? But it sounds right. Something finance. What's the actual term? Casper Finance.
There must be. I mean, I'm not.
I really think that there is.
Like, we're not multifaceted enough to get all of these quotes. I don't know shit about finance. Casper Finance. I'm honestly, it's probably coming from somewhere.
It's got to be. It sounds right. I've definitely heard.
Casper Finance is not a trusted bro. I don't know.
No, yeah, I just started Googling it too. It says Casper Finance, safe or a scam. So, all right, this one is on the TBD pile that we will find out after we finish recording. Because I swear I've heard something that rhymes with Casper used for finance. Not gonna lie, I was hoping you would somehow understand this one. But it's something though. I'm fairly confident that it's not literally Casper Finance, but there's like something that it rhymes with that he's talking about. And if that's true, this will be making the top 5 in my opinion. If it's not, and if it's just
then it's just
it's really good. And I'm telling you, and people who are listening, they might know, all the smart people out there, the millions of viewers, maybe they know. But for now, I do not know. Another one for me, Bryant. He's tall in stature. He's kind of the Sean Connery of Major League Baseball. Positional versatility makes him untouchable. He has Bond-like abilities to create a great middle of the lineup. He's always red hot in the hunt for October. He's an extraordinary gentleman in a league of his own. Bryant has many roles, and they're all hits. On free agent Chris Bryant, this one's a lot. A lot of things going on there. If you don't know, Sean Connery, famous for a lot of roles. James Bond, that's the obvious one, Bond-like, so you'll get that one. For me, it's the Red Hot in the Hunt for October. Red Hot, it's called Hunt for Red October, very famous movie with Sean Connery and Sam Neill, among many others. Very, very famous movie. It's also a little bit of a, maybe I'm digging too deep, but Sean Connery kind of had a second career in his acting life, not past Bond, where he has the beer and the voice like this. Like even you might understand that, right? And in Red October, that's a great movie. I really like this one. I like how many different references he got. He landed the plane very well, the League of His Own thing. And he said, did he almost make it a little bit cheesy at the end by saying Bryant has many roles and they're all hits? Maybe, but I like this one. I like that he actually got a lot of the things right. And Sean Connery, widely regarded as handsome, and for some people, whether it's young or old, both of them equally in their own way. And Chris Bryant, I think, is viewed in the vein of handsomeness among Major League players. So I put that one in committee. I will fight for it. Do you have any reactions? Because I know you're a big movie fan.
Nothing. I couldn't pick Sean Connery out of a lineup. I'm not even kidding.
For those who don't know, it literally took Aram some time to know who Luke Skywalker is when I showed a picture of him. So like Aram is not exactly the most pop culture fluent in the world, which makes you wonder why he's on this podcast, but nonetheless, we power on. No, that was seriously a good one. Moving on though, just 3 more. In order to move to Playoffville, Scott Boras says you have to pay the property tax.
Playoffville?
If he was talking about, why did I sound like a sheep there? If he was talking about specifically Chicago, because then you could say the Wrigleyville thing, and then you could say, oh, he's changing it up and saying Playoffville. Okay, this one's definitely not bad because I do like the property tax bar at the end. I think that's pretty good, especially because that is his work. Doesn't quite make the top 5 for me, but I do really like this one.
Yeah, it reminds me of the what's the Dr. Pepper commercial? It kind of reminds me of that with the Fanville. I think it is Fanville.
A Fanville, maybe. I don't know. I'm unfamiliar.
Okay.
I'm unfamiliar.
I'm more of
a I'm more of a Diet Stewart's root beer kind of guy. What can I say?
Root beer while recording is crazy, by the way. I'd be burping my ass off. It's nuts. I mean, that's crazy to me.
Look, it's the diet version, so maybe that's why it's not doing anything for me. I just wanted to finish it. What can I say? I forgot to finish it. So.
You know what I was thinking? So next episode, whatever we talk about, I want to bring in. I want to bring a couple quotes. Maybe we do it next free agency, and it's like you have to figure out whether it was a Boras quote or not.
Oh no, that's a good idea.
Like a fake one. And see if you can tell if it's a real Boras quote or not.
That'll be great. There you go. Future episode of Baseball versus the World coming to you this free agency.
I want to write our own, and then wait before Boras has come out. Then Boras has come out, and I want to see whose are better, mine, yours, or Boras's Ghostwriters.
Boras's Ghostwriters. Boras's Ghostwriters and Casper's and his daughter apparently. Shouts to the Harper's Bazaar one. Last couple to talk about. The free agent market is very much
his daughter. Sorry, I just pictured his daughter like up all night, like sweating, like she's in trouble if she doesn't come up with a pun for Josh Bell. She's just exhausted. She just throws in the towel, and we're just shitting on it. He's actually not a loving father. He's just like running her into the ground.
He's just got like this ghostwriter room. Yeah, that would be hilarious if that came in. But again, go look up that Epstein article. Extremely bad Freudian slip on my part. My apologies to Stephanie. Really good article where they talk about like he enters his room with his staff and he's like, all right, let's get cooking. It's just so funny to me. The idea that he enters a room, it's just like, all right, guys, we got to come up with puns.
Yeah, and some guys are throwing some out that were probably trash. And everyone's like shitting on them.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall just for that.
In that writer room?
That. Yeah, absolutely. In that writer room, just to see the ones that are bad. He says that he comes in prepared with some, and his writers are like, no. Like, that's horrible, which says a lot because some of the ones he's went public with have been horrible, as we've detailed on this show. Last two, though, in quotes, the free agent market is very much a carnivore's market. There are many grades available. For owners' menus, those are more leaning toward filet mignon and wagyu than they are to hamburger and vegan. Aram, I'm going to keep it simple. I have no idea what in the flying fuck he's talking about. I have no idea what this is about. I wish I did. Maybe I'm not smart enough, but I think he had something about like owners not, taking the meat of the free agency. Maybe that's what he's talking about. And instead but it's like, it's not like being a vegetarian bad is like bad. You're still eating, you know what I mean? So I don't quite know what he was aiming for here. The many grades available, I was like, okay. At the beginning of this, I bet you were thinking, oh, I bet this is going to be a good one. And then you're just like, wait, what is this? I don't understand what this means. I appreciate the slander towards the owners. We all do. It's free agency 2022. If anyone can figure out what he meant, please let me know. Step by the Baseball versus the World office and just leave off a note. Mark Lerner's comments about the Nationals could not afford to sign both Steven Strasburg and Anthony Rendon. Boras said that the Nationals were having a revenue festival and that they could easily sign both players. He said that special cherry trees create revenue bloom.
Okay, I kind of like that.
That's not bad, right? That's not bad. You think about the cherry blossoms and all that, especially now that the City Connect is about the cherry blossoms. So a little fortuitous of Sir Boras.
I like
a little
that
bit.
One. I'll
That
give him
wasn't
that
a
one.
too bad one. That was not too bad. I appreciate the notion, and you made it specific to the Washington. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like
Yeah.
playoffville or whatever the heck you said before. You made it specific to Washington, so I like that one. That one's a little bit of a contender. And again, if that old one, Playoffville, was about Chicago, then it deserves a spot in the mention. Otherwise, no. So, Aram, I'm going to read through some, and we have to start eliminating. This is the hard part of the podcast, where we have to start cutting down and determining our top 5. So let's start with this one. Sometimes it's better to take the 6-pack than it is to search for the champagne.
It's fine, but not top 5.
It's fine, but not top 5. Let's take that one out. You know what? Let me keep it a little bit. I'm just going to keep that one for a second, because here's one that I do think is, I think we have to take it away. The Taiwan Walker one. I feel like it's too much. Do you think it's too much or no? Do you disagree? Oh, okay.
It's just like, it's so stupid that I love it. And also it's like he's an island, and then Taipei's an island. Like I'm kind of in on it, to be honest.
Okay. No problem. I'm gonna say this is, let's see, which one can we get rid of? The market, damn, all right, we got some good ones here. Let's see here. Do we have to dump? Dude, I have no idea. Talent is the stake. We have to keep that one in. That one's a lock. So I'm going to put that one as a lock in the top 5. Let me move it from my one spot. Let's see here. Bryce Harper, the Harper's Bizarre one. I feel bad about this, but I think that if we're just talking like what's the best bar, this one is a very, very honorable mention. And the reason we put it in here is only because he said that his daughter came up with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, this one's out. You're in the Hall of Very Good, right?
Yeah.
We do this all the time when doing Hall of Fame talk. You're in the Hall of Very Good. Is Profar so good? A little bit too much of your boy being recency bias because he loves Jerks and Profar.
Yes.
Yeah, no hesitation. Okay, so we're taking out Profar so good. But seriously, Arm, can you explain to me what the heck's going on Jerks and Profar after we're done recording? Because I'm very confused.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
It's the craziest thing. There are a lot of teams in the free agent market that are the waters for center fielder. Whoever picks our guy will be the lucky one to Finding Nemo. I feel like that. Do you think that's a lock?
That's a lock.
That's a lock. Because for you to hit 2 puns also, two puns,
Mm-hmm.
I think deserves a shot. I'm going to eliminate another one. And I think that you'll agree with this one. I think that my Marvel bias can't carry this one. The first teams have had a chance to sign the X-Man. I think they're finding it to be a Marvel opportunity. He has a very famous Uncle Humphrey who's left him in his memoirs. It's a little bit too much. I'm a big fan of it, but I think this goes in the Hall of Very Good. I think this goes in the Hall of Very
Good. Doesn't pack enough of a punch.
Yeah, exactly. That's the right way to say it. Doesn't pack enough of a punch to me. It's just like, oh yeah, I've seen Marvel movies before. Good job, Boras. You know what I mean? You're not like, whoa.
You also know he didn't write that one.
Yeah, for sure. That was the ghostwriters 100%. 100%. Absolutely. Here's the thing. The crowds at Marlins Park put the MIA in Miami.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Let's save it for now. I don't know if it's a lock, but we're definitely saving it for now.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. This is tough, man. I think the Marcus Semien one is a little bit too much. In Marcus's case, he brings a charge to the batter's box. He insulates the middle infield, so he's truly a modern day Semien conductor. And we all know there's a shortage.
Tying into the chips thing was funny, but yeah.
But I feel bad because this one is pretty good. You know what? Let's first get rid of, because we don't know at the time of this recording what he's referring to yet, the Casper Finance one. I think we should get rid of that one because we don't know for sure. That might be our fault. And if so, feel free to yell at us. Aram doesn't have many people yell at him online anyway. So feel free to do that. I'm going to take that one out just because I don't know yet. It might be horrible and I just don't know. But otherwise for now, Hall of Very Good for the Casper Finance one. Man. Dude, this is hard. Like, I don't know what to put in now. I might have to expand this to like top 10 or something like that. This is really tough. Teams that are pursuing championship, the Max Scherzer one, is that one too simple compared to the rest that we have?
Yeah, a little too simple. Max is just so easy. It's such an easy word to the maximum. Okay, the most. It's not that hard.
Yeah, it's not that hard. It's good. you get the job done for sure, but I just don't. I think that when we're talking about the Taipei and the X-Man and the Cherry Blossom Bloom, it just is not as good as in comparison. So we're gonna take that one out. Oh man, so we've got 2 locks right now. Talent is the stake, and I don't really care what time it is or what time dinner is. There are a lot of teams in free agency that are in the waters for center field. The Brandon Nimmo picks are one. All right, the 6-pack and champagne on James Paxton.
You know what? I am in on that one.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's keep that one for now. The Taiwan Walker one, I just can't. I keep coming back to this one. I can't decide. We're having a disagreement here. I cannot decide if this one's too stupid. And you're reaching.
I mean, we got 2 more spots. So what are 2 better ones?
We have 2 more spots. So what is the third one that we've decided on? I don't even know.
I said 2 more. Yeah, we have 2 more spots.
We have 2 that are in there right now.
Okay, so we got 3 more then.
We have 3 more, and let me just run down what we're deciding between. So we've got X-Man, Taiwan Walker, the 6-pack with champagne, the MIA in Miami, the weird Marcus Semien battery conductor one, the Chris Bryant, Sean Connery one, and then the Anthony Rendon Nationals players special cherry trees create revenue bloom. So I'm going to give you my immediate thoughts. My immediate thoughts is that the Sean Connery one is amazing, but there's a lot going on there. It's not quick, and I am a pop culture person. Maybe some people who don't follow pop culture won't fully get it. I think that the X-Men one is like everyone knows the X-Men. You know who the X-Men are. You know what I mean? Like maybe not in detail, but at least people know what he's talking about. I think because of that, I'll take out the Sean Connery one. Although my mom is a huge fan of Sean Connery, so this will hurt her greatly. I'm going to take that one out. I don't feel great about it at all. Let's take it from the perspective of what is going to be easier to fit on a social media post after we're done recording. So let's take out the Sean Connery one.
Yep.
And if we're going to go by that, do we take out the X-Man one? You said yes, because your thing was like, because Aram hates me, as we've alluded to already in this podcast. He hates the Marvel stuff, all that thing. So we're going to take out the X-Men one. That leaves us with Taiwan Walker on an island, Boras on Miami attendance, the 6-pack instead of champagne, the Marcus Semien conductor, and then the revenue bloom. We can choose 3 out of the 5 left. Which do
revenue bloom
choose?
I like, because the blooms are such a big part of it, and now that they're City Connect, like you said, the foresight there, like I think you got to put that one in there.
And you know why else? Because it was a response, and that's what makes it harder for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You responded, and you came up with a really good
and they should have
pretty
signed
quickly.
Soto. The team's like, it's freaking Juan Soto. You keep that guy. Yeah. So I agree.
We're gonna go with revenue bloom. Hey, no matter what, if it eases your concerns at all, we'll no matter what have a better list than what Ethan Budasky came up with last week with City Connect. So no matter what happens, like we'll at least be better than that. How do you put the Padres last and the Orioles above that? Like, what are we doing? Anyway, go listen to that episode, guys, if you want to hear just the second worst take in the history of Just Baseball. Number 1 is a golden spot that you know who I'm referring to. So that leaves a few more left to decide on. We just have to decide which of these 4 to get rid of. Is Taiwan Walker, James Paxton, the champagne one, MIA in Miami, and then the Marcus Semien conductor one. Which of these 4? We only need to take out 1, and then the rest fills out our top 5, and then we can or I'm sorry, no, we have to take out 2. We have 3 right now because we put the revenue bloom in our top 5. So this is probably getting very confusing for some people, but don't worry, we're going to land this plane. Is the Marcus Semien one too much? Because we're talking about the best of the best. Like, this is a great one. We're just talking about the best of the best. Compared to the MIA in Miami? Is that one too easy? Is MIA in Miami too easy? Have other people made that comment before?
I'm sure someone's made it before.
Right? Like, I feel like there's probably... Did the MIA band make that? They probably didn't. But, dude, I'm struggling. I'm struggling right now. This is tough. This is where you need, like, next-gen stats. See, everyone rails against analytics and whatnot, but this is when it's really helpful for deciding, which one has the greatest WAR, which one has the greatest expected stats for what we will end up putting out into the world.
I think MIA in Miami is clever enough. Mm-hmm. I do.
And you know what? I think that we're going to put it up because At Just Baseball, we've got an attachment to the Marlins, obviously with you, sir, and also with some other people like Jeff Conine, and you host that podcast with him. I think that another part of this is we saw that Marlins Park can get filled up. It absolutely can, right? We saw that with the World Baseball Classic. You and many others were there to cover it for the website. I think that this one has aged well, and I think that's why I might put it in there. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay. LSU's baseball attendance is greater than the Marlins, by the way, is what he was referring to. And that is a shot, and he has not been proven wrong.
Yeah, I also think it's a funny tie-in too. Like, it's just disrespectful.
Absolutely.
I love it's funny as hell.
That leaves Taijuan Walker, Marcus Semien, James Paxton. My initial reaction, I've been on it this whole time. Out of these three, because we're talking about the best of the best, I would take out Taijuan Walker. I think that one's a little bit too, you won't immediately get it. And some people, frankly, might view it as insulting originally because they might not know what he's talking about. So they might be like, what are we doing here? Where is he making some crack? I feel like there's just some weird waters with that one. It's solid. And I still like it. I feel bad because I know that you like this one a lot. And the fact that he got him overpaid, I think makes it even funnier. I'm going to take it out. I do not feel good about it, though. I do not feel good about it. We might come back to it. That leaves Marcus Semien and the James Paxton one. I think if we are going off of our theme, which has been more concise, more clean in order to make the best of the best, not just be great, I think you take out the Marcus Semien one. There's a lot going on there. It's great.
Yeah, I agree.
But there's a lot going
on. Paxton's clean and it's relatable.
Mm-hmm. Pax is clean. And like you said, it's 1,000,000 times funner because it was a player option.
Yes.
Like he's acting like this is Garrett Cole. Right? Yeah. Like he's acting like this is Garrett Cole. And like you said, I think it's relatable. I think a lot of people can get on board with this one. And frankly, if you don't know anything about baseball, you might like this one. The only, I guess, criticism would be, does it relate to the name enough? I think it does. I think it does, absolutely. I don't think it has to be like every letter, but six-pack, Paxton, I think that's really good.
And what else are we supposed to do with James Paxton?
Exact. Oh, wait. Yeah, that's the deciding factor. This was not an easy name to do, and he came up with something. This is
a pretty really boring player. Like,
yeah, like he gets hurt a lot, and when he's on, he's very effective. But damn, shout out James Paxton. Jeez, just a boring guy. But as of right now, Aram, our golden commandments of Scott Boras fandom, the top 5 goes: talent is the stake, and I don't really care what time dinner is, on whether or not he was concerned about the lockout and all that stuff. There are a lot of teams in the free agent market that are in the waters for center fielder. Whoever picks our guy will be the lucky one to Finding Nemo. Mark Lerner's comments about the National not being able to afford stuff, and then Scott Boras going, special cherry trees could create revenue bloom. I think that's good because it's a response. I think that's what makes it better. That means that he didn't have it at the writer's room necessarily. Maybe he did, but they had to go fast. They were working quick. You know what I mean? He sent the Nationals owner had the diss track, and he was ready, 30 minutes after. You know what I'm saying? So that would, then Boras on LSU's baseball attendance being greater than the Marlins. The fans of Florida have certainly brought the MIA to Miami. And then lastly, sometimes it's better to take the 6-pack than it is to search for the champagne. In regarding James Paxton, the only one out of all of those that I think might be questionable is the Miami one, just because Taijuan Walker is really good. Marcus is really good. The X-Bed's really good.
I love the Taijuan one, but
you want to put Taijuan?
I'm just saying I love it, but I'm cool with anything.
It really is great, man. Like I did not. Dude, I don't know if I want to put this. Does the Miami thing feel lazy?
It's definitely not as creative as the Taipei one. And also, here's the thing. Here's the tiebreaker for me. Mm-hmm. Tiebreaker. I think he got Taijuan Walker a deal that just is insane. Like, I think that's one of his master classes.
And if we're like deciding the best of the best, we have to go into some other factors. I'm also going to say the Miami joke's a little bit played out. You know what I mean? It's a good bar.
Attendance jokes, like, they don't piss me off because like they're valid. They're just lazy. Like that. Anytime I see something about like Marlins fans, like, oh, like all 10 of you are pissed or whatever. Like, okay, yeah, sure, like whatever. Mm-hmm. I agree. This was different. This was more clever, but like I just it is played out.
It's just a
I
little
mean,
bit
this
played out,
man,
in my opinion.
I forgot that Taipei's an island like that, like that. He's teaching me geography.
Yeah, right.
I think you got to go with that one.
All right, so we're replacing that one. So final one last time. Talent is the stake, and I don't really care what time dinner is. There are a lot of teams in the free agent market that are in the wires for center fielder. Whoever picks our guy will be lucky one to finding Nimmo. Comments about them not being able to afford Strasburg and Rendon, and he says they can have a revenue festival, special cherry cheese, create revenue bloom. Taijuan Walker is on an island, and the only question is who is willing. ... So he paused. He paused too.
Pause.
To pay. And then sometimes it's better to take the 6-pack than it is to search for the champagne. Because also that was just a good life lesson, man. You know, that one has some like meaning to it. You know what I mean? It's like when you listen to a J. Cole album. It's like when you listen to a J. Cole album or old 90s hip hop. Like these things have some layers to them, man. So that is our top 5. I think we did a kick-ass job filtering all the just sea of nonsense of Scott Boras to create our top 5. Of course, everybody, though, we're not done with today's episode. The last thing we have to do is our awards of the week. I got to get a sound effect at some point. I really got to do that. That's my fault. The awards for this week, as I've been talking about, we're trying to streamline them more. It's hard for me to come up with a new award for something and a new name every week. So usually we're going to have the same 4 or so rotating. We've got funniest failure for this week. This is the Cop Slide Award, by the way, for funniest failure. And then the second one is, and Aram will like this, I imagine, the Keith Olbermann Award for nuclear level bad take that deserves to be made fun of more, even if it is obvious.
That guy stinks. I love that. I love that. It's very rare that you're going to get me to like publicly say somebody stinks. I'm will happily say it with him. Like, I don't care about much. Like you really can't get me that riled up on social media because I expect to just see the dumbest things ever all the time. The thing with him is he has the bad take. Look at his Twitter. He posts it like 50 times.
Oh, I know.
He'll post the same video over and over. It's like someone check on grandpa kind of thing.
And there have been political ones that we won't talk about that really annoyed me back in the day, especially at the beginning of the pandemic and stuff. I won't get into it. People who know, if you know, you know. His comment after Edwin Diaz got hurt was one of the most racist, vile things I've seen from someone who, frankly, claims to not be and claims to attack those.
Yeah, who grandstands on not being like.
You know what I mean?
I forgot about that one.
It was on Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, I was literally waiting for the to hear what the injury was, and we're covering that, and I thought it was a parody account at first.
Yeah, I know, right? And not gonna lie, I'm Puerto Rican, so him making some comment like that about a Puerto Rican player, it did hit a little bit more, and I was like, you know what? You're officially on my enemy list. You're on my blacklist.
I know. I was happy when that one came through, though, at least, because I was like, I got Javi on board now.
Yeah, he's like, oh, he's with me on the brigade, and I was with it before, but now I'm like, oh, you're getting an award named after you now for nuclear level bad take. Since we've been talking so much about that one, let's go with that one first. I surprised you a little bit with this one, and the reason I did is because if I told you what we would do for nuclear bad take, you would pick the same thing I picked, which is last week, Stephen A. Smith. Our guy, Stephen A. Smith on Mike Trout. Basically, it's a whole thing saying he's a sensational player when he's healthy and saying, but I've grown disgusted with his lack of availability. It makes me question. I know he looks the part, but what the hell are you doing to take care of yourself? Always injured. I mean, damn, it's baseball. I mean, what are we talking about here? It's not football. It's not boxing. It's not the UFC. You're not running up and down the court 94 feet. Basketball for 82 nights a year. It's baseball. Half the time, y'all are standing out in the outfield, chewing on pumpkin seeds or something, and waiting for a fly ball to come your way. First of all, I will say that his delivery of this makes it a little bit funnier. And yeah, the pumpkin seeds was. I didn't even notice that.
Baseball player, like that just shows you how out of touch. Just stop talking about baseball, dude. Like,
just don't talk about baseball then.
But like, yeah, like it's just don't talk about it.
Pumpkin what is good seeds? With First Take, man? First Take has been,
that is the worst. Like, you don't think Mike Trout wants to be healthy? Like. He's and I also like keep that same energy, with Dame. Why weren't you disgusted with Dame up until he requested a trade, right? Like we're lauding him for sticking it out, and
okay, go ahead now.
I think that stuff is silly. Like I do want him to leave. I wish he would, but I'm not going to fault the man and say he deserves to be hurt because he wants to stick with the franchise that drafted him when nobody else did, right? Like, he fell so late in the first round. Nobody knew that he was going to be an all-time great. Like, and also he's a very comfortable guy. He likes what he likes. He's not playing for you, Stephen A. Smith. He's playing for himself. So I'm with you. That is the worst take of the week, and I think of a while. And you know what? Like, Stephen A. Smith's worst takes consistently seem to be baseball related stuff.
I was just about to say that.
That's what happens when you talk about stuff you don't know.
Exactly. And first take has been bad. We can go from Chris Russo making an atomic bomb analogy when talking about Shohei Ohtani. We could talk about Stephen A. Smith saying that Shohei Ohtani won't be a superstar, but can't be a superstar because he doesn't speak English, even though he does, just not super fluently. And he actually speaks Spanish as well. So that's more than you, Stephen A. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's already, he's knowing more than you can. He's with Japanese, English, and Spanish. Nuclear level bad takes on mainstream media platforms for baseball is a common theme that we don't have a lot of time to talk about. But Stephen A. Smith, you win there. And also the bringing up, they play 82 games. Have you looked up how long this baseball schedule is? Now, it is the only kernel of truth is you will see some weird baseball injuries. That part is true. Like, I mean, we've had some like really weird stuff with guys like, I'm out with dizziness. That doesn't mean it's not bad. It's just that it's like weird had the injuries happen. Go look up Byron Buxton when he bit into a piece of steak and then got hurt. Baseball does have weird injuries, but the idea that it's like not hard to not get hurt, it's like, yeah, man, it's real easy.
You're swinging a bat, like, you know, it's high impact. Like, it's just different.
And hot take. We sure that Mike Trout, even if he wanted to be traded, that owner, who's famously a really good owner, would trade him?
Yeah. No.
You had Shohei Ohtani last year and lost him for nothing, probably because you liked the revenue that you were getting from having him on your team. So let's just be honest.
They had a 0.01% chance of keeping him, so they didn't.
If you were a team that really cared about making your team better, they would have traded him. You know what I mean? Like, they would have been like, this guy has so much value. Let's just.
No, they were buyers.
Exactly. They were buyers at the deadline. So it's actually more the Angels' fault. So whatever. Yeah. Mike Trout, do your thing. We love you. Even though last week I did make fun of you a little bit, a tiny bit, and I feel bad about that. But for funniest failure this week, I've got like 87 different nominees for the Cop Slide for funniest failure award. For those who don't know, look up Cop Slide on YouTube. You'll know what I'm talking about. It's a very funny video. One of them I had was the Marlins in their entirety, just because of the Luis Arraez trade, the fact that you made the playoffs for the first time in a while, and fast forward, you're probably wondering how I got here, and it's them trading their best player, losing their GM, losing their manager, and they traded their best player with like a month into the season. So that, it's your boy, though, that I think has to be a nominee for this one. Tristan Casas, one of the weirder characters that we have in baseball right now for a variety of reasons. He's been a nominee on this show before, with that weird Instagram story he posted with maybe a homeless person. He said he casted doubt on Ted Williams. That's my best, but this is okay. I'm reading now from Boston.com. Tristan Casas' latest home run caused him to drop a take on one of the most iconic things about Fenway Park. The Red Sox first baseman expressed doubts over Ted Williams' famous home run after hitting a 429-foot homer in Saturday's 7-2 win over the Angels. That's my best ball for sure, Casas told reporters of his homer, which had a 111.9 exit velocity. I had one hit harder exit velo-wise last year, but that Ted Williams seat is starting to feel more and more like a myth.
W.
So you think this one's a W, actually?
Yeah, I love it. I talked about it on the Just Baseball show. I hate that red seat. So that one's a W for me.
Okay. So never mind that one. I didn't know what direction you go with, right? Like, I didn't know if it was
valid. I love it because you know what? It's like, I'm so tired of that myth being pushed. Like, no way Ted Williams hit a ball. And they just put out a piece on MLB.com, like breaking down the analytics of it. I'm like, oh, if there was a wind gust right at that time and he hit it, and like all of these things happened, and gravity didn't really enforce itself at the time of the game, like he could have hit that seat. Like, no, he didn't. It didn't happen.
Is this one of those us being part of the younger generation thing where we're going to support it? Because this reminds me of a similar vein of, I believe it was, who's the pitcher? He's on the Mets now. The one who said, I'm blanking on the relief pitcher, who said he would strike out
Adam
Ottavino. There we go.
He's right, though. Babe Ruth would vomit.
Exactly. And again, I have breaking news for everybody who's comparing eras. You can't. You know how why Babe Ruth's the greatest? Because at his time, he was the greatest.
Yeah,
Why
he's the
are we
most
doing
dominant.
this? His
Yeah.
impact on the game is greater than almost
Which is
anyone.
fine. Which
We
is
go, "Fine."
fine. But he
That's
also
why.
can't hit the ball 600 feet. It's just
Exactly. So I just think that we get into this issue sometimes with talk about greatest of all time when the parameters shouldn't just be, hey, I looked up their baseball reference page, or the
yes.
parameters shouldn't just be, hey, he was the first to do it. There's
Or
more
whatever narrative
conversation
you
there.
want to curate.
Yeah. So it's like, it varies. I think Babe Ruth is one of the greatest because literally nobody had done what he did. And then he started doing it. And we were all like, wait, you could just like do that. And it became a thing forever. That's why I think he's one of the greatest. So that's my thing. But W for Tristan Cassis. Okay. Okay. Not at where I expected this to go, but don't worry. I have a backup for like the cringiest, funniest, not even funniest failure. This is just cringiest. I'm changing the award. We're not doing funniest failure this week. This week it's for cringiest moment. The Ben Verlander Award, one of the favorite awards that we've given out here on Baseball versus the World. The Ben Verlander Award for most cringe. Mason Miller not having a walk-up song because he's afraid the lights may not turn on, referring to the Oakland A's. Oh man, actually, this could go in funniest failure too, depending on how you are.
I love that shot. I thought that was a great one from Mason.
That's a great shot. Maybe this should be a new category for just the best roast of the week. Maybe that's what we'll call it, the best roast of the week. The Comedy Central Tom Brady. You know, we just had that roast thing. So the Roast Central Award of the week goes to Mason Miller on his own organization. Give him some credit. Shouts to Mason Miller. And unfortunately, I hate that there is a lot of truth to that. So final winners for this week's awards that I changed about 7 different times, but it's okay. We ball. For the first one, this is for the what we just talked about. The best roast of the week goes to Mason Miller, saying that he can't have a walk-up song because he's afraid the lights might turn out. And then for the Keith Olbermann Award for nuclear level bad take that deserves to be made fun of more, it is Stephen A. Injury blaming Mike Trout.
Yeah. Yep.
For lack of a better term.
Saying he deserved it. Like weird.
It's like, what's wrong with you? All you're doing is playing every day and facing 98 mile per hour fastballs and having to run around.
Running in center field and trying to rob home runs. Yeah.
And hot take, maybe part of the reason baseball players get hurt is because they're not constantly in motion. That's what makes it really hard. Go look up this article that Hannah Kaiser did over with the Ringer on the DH and why it's hard to be a DH because you're not constantly moving. So shouts to that. Anyway, Aram, this was a blast. I had no doubt that it would be a blast, but nonetheless, it was still a lot of fun. What would you like to plug for the good people out there?
Check out the Call Up and the Just Baseball show. We're churning out episodes on both. Good interview with Kobe Mayo the other day, one of the Orioles' top prospects on the Call Up, and Just Baseball show every day. We got you primed up for everything going on in Major League Baseball.
Absolutely. Feel free, everybody, to subscribe to the show on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. But that's not as important as Baseball versus the World. That account, Baseball versus World on Twitter. It is a very funny header that I haven't gotten enough credit for, frankly, for that account. Go follow that. And also just start up the Instagram. You can find that at Baseball versus the World as well on Instagram, where I'll be posting more clips as they come out. Clips, highlights, graphics, all that stuff, the highlights from the show. And you damn well know there will be a clip and highlight from this show. So that'll be a lot of fun. Sorry about missing last week's episode. We had a little bit of a scheduling conflict. So we are back here and we'll be back next week with, I don't know yet, but future topics include an award show on Alex Rodriguez, talking about video game characters for which teams they represent, and then potentially about how the X-Men relate to baseball with a very special guest. I have not fully confirmed that yet, though, so I will not guarantee it, but that is in the works, as well as many other things, and we will have more and more illustrious guests. Maybe not as illustrious as Aram Leighton, but still, we'll have some great ones. Everybody, that has been about it for today's episode of Baseball versus the World. Check out everything else, and then until next time, of course, stay golden, and love and enjoy baseball.